My name is Donna. I am 15 years old and I live with my father in a small house in the suburbs. Ever since my mother died, I depended on my father for everything. We have an excellent relationship and we love each other very much. One morning, my father was leaving for a business trip. As we ate breakfast together, he told me that he would be coming home very late that night. With that, he kissed me on the forehead and said goodbye. Later that day, when I had returned home from school, I did some homework and watched some TV. By midnight, my father had still not returned, so I went to bed. That night, I had a dream. I found myself at the edge of a highway. Cars and trucks whizzed by at alarming rates. I looked across the highway and saw a familiar figure standing on the other side. It was my father. His hands were cupped around his mouth and he seemed to be shouting something, but I couldn't make out what he was saying. As the traffic whizzed by, I strained my ears to hear what he was saying. Don't open door. Suddenly, I was awoken from my dream by a strange tapping noise. Tap, tap, tap. Then, somebody began to ring the doorbell from downstairs. Ring, ring, ring. I scrambled out of bed and put on my slippers. Then, dressed in only my nightgown, I headed downstairs. Looking through the peephole, I saw my father. He was staring at me. The bell kept ringing. "Give me a second," I yelled, and I pulled back the deadbolt when I stopped. I slid the deadbolt back into place and looked out the peephole once more. Something about my father's expression did not look quite right. His eyes were wide open and awake. Not the eyes of someone who had just been on a long business trip, but the eyes of someone who was terrified. "Dad!" I yelled through the door. "Did you forget your keys?" Ring, ring, ring. "Dad, answer me!" Ring, ring, ring. "Dad, please, I need you to answer." Ring, ring, ring. "I'm not opening the door until you say something." The doorbell kept ringing and ringing, but for some reason my father refused to answer my desperate cries. For the rest of the night, I huddled in the corner of the hallway, listening to the terrifying rings of the doorbell. It seemed to go on for hours and hours, not stopping once. Eventually, I fell into an uneasy sleep. I awoke in the morning and immediately was confronted with the silence of the house. The ringing had stopped. I crept over to the door and looked through the peephole. My dad was still there, staring with wide eyes. I opened the door and was greeted by the awful smell my father was emitting from his hanging body. Around his neck was tied a note. The note read, "Clever." It was kind of scary at first, letting the entire world know what I was doing. I was giving up my privacy and freedom, but I thought it might help me finally fit in. At first, Facebook seemed very foreign to me. I had 0 messages, 0 notifications, and 0 friend invites. It was just like in real life, only this time the whole world could see it. Regardless, I started exploring the site. I can still recall the first thing I did when I started using Facebook. Remember the game with the fish? You know the game, right? It was my favorite. I used to spend hours on it. I would buy countless fish, but I would never feed them. I just wanted to watch them die. Watching fish die was so much fun. I probably would have played it forever if I didn't receive that first friend request. I couldn't believe it. Somebody wanted to be my friend. I eagerly clicked accept. It was the best feeling that I could ever describe. After I clicked on the person's profile, I saw what Facebook was really all about. He had hundreds of friends and countless status updates, all of them with at least 5 likes each. I so wanted that. I began to snoop through his friends list and I added every single person that he was friends with. It took about 5 hours, but it was worth it. I didn't know any of them and some of them just ignored me, but others accepted my friend request without thinking twice. As soon as I became friends with them on Facebook, I was able to learn everything about them. I passed the first 2 weeks adding people. Then I added everyone they knew. Before long, my popularity began growing exponentially. People finally knew who I was. It was all so wonderful. Some of the kids at my school even started to talk to me. It was insane. I began to fall in love with social networking. I became a Facebook addict. I hated not being online. The thought of not knowing what everyone was doing or what they were thinking was overwhelming. I hated the time I had to spend in school. Every hour from Facebook seemed like spending an eternity in hell. I spent every free moment I had on the site. I began dreaming about using it, and soon enough, I stopped dreaming altogether. I developed insomnia, which was great for me because it meant I could spend even more time on Facebook, especially since the school year had just ended. It was sweet to be able to spend every single waking moment of my life on Facebook, but spending so much time on it allowed me to also see the dark side of Facebook. There were a lot of people on there that still refused to accept my friend request. I had sent thousands upon thousands, and yet still I only had around 2,000 friends. It was obvious that those people had something against me. Why else would they not want to be friends with me? Why else? There had to be a solution to all of this madness, and it was obvious. Yes, it was all so clear then. All I had to do was get rid of them. I still remember my first victim. Truly, I had nothing against her. She was so young, so beautiful, and so innocent. I will never forget those eyes, those piercing black eyes. The thing I remember most about her was how she had bled and how loud she screamed. I relieve that feeling every time I choose a new victim. Come to think of it, I just sent you a friend request. If I were you, I'd think twice about clicking deny.